Hello, it's Veronica and Naomi, and we're here to talk about our Mommy's opinion on Furina from Genshin. So Furina is the Hydro Archon, or more like a human who had to play the role of the Hydro Archon for 500 years in order to prevent a terrible prophecy from coming true. So this prophecy literally involved all the people in Fontaine drowning unless she could maintain this act for 500 years. And this task was personally given to Furina by Fossilors, the real Hydra Archon. And the thing with Furina, she's only human. She's just an actress. She cannot wield the power of Hydro, and she has the basic human limitations. So why would Fossilors give her this task? Well, Fossilors did this so she could deceive the heavenly principles. That included Furina playing the role of the Hydro Archon. So what went into Furina to pulling off this act? Well, she acted more confident than she actually was. She hid her original real personality in favor of this more flamboyant, more overdramatic, more confident personality. She had to hide who she really was in order to succeed in this. And she had to deceive everybody. Little examples of this include, like, do you know how we mentioned that she could not wield the power of Hydro during her time as a Hydro Archon, even though she a curse was placed on her to where she couldn't age? Well, she would claim that she converted her Hydro powers into Indemnitium. It was a little excuse she would do. And there's other little examples of this all throughout her dialogue and her mannerisms. Like, there's just something about her, like, acting personality that feels like she's putting on a show. She's acting like it's not the most genuine, or something feels off about it, or she's just being too impulsive with her decisions. Almost childlike in a way. Yeah, she makes a lot of rash decisions relating to several of the court cases she has to judge in the game. And then you learn her backstory. And there are moments in this backstory where she's like alone, crying on her bed, wondering why she has to suffer and for how much longer. There's a really nice moments between Fossilors and Noverlet, where Fossilors literally sacrifices herself right in front of him because her spirit was basically trapped in the Oratories. Yeah, the Oratories has a very long name. It's this machine that Fossilors, the original Hydro Archon, created to kind of aid with like court cases and trials. But its real purpose was always to kill the throne of the Hydro Archon. So when it gave its sentence to kill the Hydro Archon, it was talking about the throne of the Hydro Archon. And she had to deceive Celestia, which is like, they're like these gods in Genshin who like no one knows that much about, but they're like super powerful. You don't want to make them mad to get this task done. And Novilla is also like one of the like 7 sovereigns, which are basically these 7 dragons who used to rule Teyvat in the Genshin universe. So Yeah, she's able to give the Hydro Dragon back his power. And after all this was said and done, Furina was able to kind of live her life as a human. And yeah, but this is where things get interesting. So after this Archon quest, after her fall from grace, and with her inability to prevent the prophecy from happening and save everybody from it, I mean, she does help. Everyone in Fontaine does end up surviving thanks to the help of Novelet and the Traveler, much of other parties involved. But yeah, after that, there's this story quest that you have to do for her, and so it involves like helping this acting troupe. So you're going to Furina's house to help this troupe because they need a lead actress for their play, and it's like their final performance, and their director passed away and all that. And the Traveler knows that Furina's great at acting. Furina loves acting. She has a passion for it. So you go to her house. She's depressed. Like, she is literally depressed. Like, she's not eating cake like she's used to. She's, like, making macaroni for herself. She's living in a much smaller living space than she did before. Yeah, her living conditions are much simpler than before. And it's obvious she's going through something. And she's very sad about something. Like, she doesn't... Then you ask her to play this role, and she, like, says she doesn't want to get back on the stage. She doesn't want to act again. She doesn't want to play any roles anymore because of how much her past has affected her. How much having to play the Hydra Archon for 500 years has really affected her and changed her mindset. And she just wants to focus on herself pretty much. But yeah, you can tell she's really depressed during this Archon quest. Then it kind of goes on. And then there's even a part where you have to go to another part of Fontaine to get some, like, to get two other actors involved in this theater troupe. Passan. Yeah, it's in Passan, that part. Now, this is, like, the heavy emotional part. Like, after she agrees to help this theater troupe as a consultant, they decide to go to Passan to get like the ending for the play, and to get like everyone together for it. And just, yeah, of course, this whole theater troupe is really inspired by Furina, because in the Genshin canon, she is very much an actress. She's very much experienced in musicals and stage performances. It's something that she, like, was always passionate about and always did. So she's, like, really infamous for, like, her stage performances and her acting skills. So then when you're in Passan, it takes a tonal shift in a way. So while the other actors are while you're waiting for this one guy to get the ending of the play and update everyone on it, it's just, you and Furina decide to take a little walk. And Furina opens up to you about everything. Like how she had to pretend to be perfect, to play the role of the Hydra Archon perfectly for those 500 years. The mental strain it had on her, and the extreme loneliness of her situation. How she wanted to express herself and her curiosities about the world, but she never had anyone she felt like she could confide in. She had to keep everything secret. She just couldn't be herself, could not reveal her real identity, no matter how much she wanted to. And this part got to our doll mommy a lot. Just so many screenshots from this that we may show after the video or not, if there's room for it. And yeah, the screenshots during like both the Archon quest and this one from Furina are just depressing at times. Like, you want to reach for the screen and hug her. Depressing. And probably the like negative part of this part is like how Paimon is just being rude to Furina a bit. Like, Paimon's just a bit too rude during this part. Like, you could tell Furina is suffering in this scene. Like, she's depressed. And the things she speaks about feel very personal and just so deeply relatable. Like, so with the traveler, she also like talks about how no one was able to see her suffering. And it's just, you can tell it put a lot of mental pressure on her to be perfect. It put a lot of mental pressure on her to execute the role of the Hydra Archon perfectly without being able to be herself at all and express her real emotions. And the story after this play is definitely interesting because it goes into something interesting. It definitely gets interesting. So after you have your little talk and you're all getting the show together, and the traveler has to go and get some evidence from a court case, specifically the journal of the original director who passed away, to complete this play. There's a part where they're backstage and the lead actress gets really sick because like she was taking different meds or something. And this role of Clio, this human, Oceanid who wished to become a human but had to hide her identity, has a lot of parallels to Furina's own story. It's really cool to see this. And like, you can tell how much Furina relates to his character. Even though Violet comments that like this role is like perfect for her. Even though she doesn't want to like act and declined to act in this play. So then the actress playing Clio gets sick. And there's this one final musical number. This one final piece that she has to perform. And she asks Furina personally to perform this piece. So, of course, to honor the memory of the director of this play, Furina accepts this. And then she walks onto the stage and performs Lafayette, which is this really beautiful like opera piece that really does have ties to both the in-game story of the play and, in a way, to Furina's own story. And this piece of music is amazing. If you haven't heard Lafayette, look up this song because it is incredible. incredible. Like, it's this whole French opera piece and everything. So, as far as, like, and then at, like, curtain call cards, you have people suspecting, oh, Furina performed that. Because there's someone, just because there's someone on stage who looks just like her. And then, one of the members of the troupe credits her for advising them, which she gets, like, upset about a bit because she was worried about, like, being credited. She didn't want to be credited because she's kind of lying low for a bit because of her depression, because of how much she's been through. But yeah, basically, like, everyone loved the performance. Then after the performance, like, people are, like, welcoming her, like, back onto the stage and, like, as an actress. And then you learn that she finally got her hydrovision while she was performing. Because apparently, like, Pie Mom is going to drop a fake vision, but then a real one appeared in front of her. So she can now use the power of hydro. And she's now a vision holder. And it's just, yeah. So while it seems like her story has a happy ending, it's interesting. Like, and then she decides she wants to continue acting. She doesn't want to stop performing, and it's just, yeah, it somewhat helps her get back. She's able to somewhat get back into acting. And, like, her passion for acting is able, in a way, to help her through her depression in this quest. More specifically, our doll mommy loves the way this portrays depression and masking. Like, depression is a mental disorder. That's very real. Basically, it's where you feel this inexplainable sadness at even little things. It permeates your every thought. It makes your thoughts darker than they should be. It's a very difficult thing to get through at times. And as someone who has experienced depression before, this story quest really resonated with our doll mommy. She's able to see herself in a lot of the dialogue in this, and it's just, it's crazy how relatable it is. It's so crazy how relatable this single story quest is. And Furina's situation is. While our doll mommy is not necessarily, like, an actress, she is someone on the autism spectrum. She has Asperger's, or high-functioning autism. So her whole life, she had to mask, to hide parts of her personality, to not talk about her social interests too much, to act normal, to please society, to please her parents. And that does take a toll on a person, especially when you've had to mask and hide your emotions and things like that for your whole life. It's really not easy to get through. And your suffering, like Furina's, is invisible. Because no one sees that you have autism. No one sees how much you're truly suffering. How deep it goes. And it's just, yeah. When you have to hide your interests, you act more mature than you actually are, and just only show certain parts of yourself outwardly as to appear normal, to blend in, to fit in with society, it's difficult. It's not easy, and Ardama really did feel for his pain a lot during this little quest, because it's like, yeah, she had to mask for 500 years. She had to play this larger than life role that should be impossible for any human to play. She had to go through a lot. She had to go through everything for her people, the people of Fontaine, just to save them. Yeah, she couldn't talk about this with them. She couldn't open up to them. This is why Ardama is convinced that Furina is a great example of depression, of masking, and that her writing is a beautiful way to portray these very difficult emotions and mental health issues that aren't always the easiest to capture. So, if you ever want to know how someone on the autism spectrum feels sometimes, how masking truly feels, just look up Furina's story quest. Listen to her dialogue whenever you're sitting talking with her in Passant. You are not going to be disappointed in this. Because this dialogue is truly impactful, especially for a video game. Like, we get it. People may look at Genshin and be like, it's just a video game. It's nothing special. But where Dama sees this game sometimes, it is so intensely relatable. Even the little things in it feel relatable and deep. And when it's well written, it's like, it's really cool to see it. And while autistic masking may be a difficult situation to describe in words, if you have Genshin, play that quest. If you don't have Genshin, maybe look up someone's compilation of the cutscenes for it. But like, or the part after the trial where like you kind of enter Furina's thoughts and you see her just crying on her bed, asking, when is the suffering going to be over? And just, yeah. It's amazing how this game is able to describe one of the most difficult to describe mental conditions and the emotions associated with it. It's amazing how accurately it is to describe the feeling of depression and having to experience it. And it is especially amazing how it's able to capture the feeling of autistic masking and its mental impact to a scary degree. Well, goodbye, mysterious audience. I love you. Naomi loves you. And that was our little video. We're gonna finish editing Olivia's review soon, so stay tuned for that.